Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and welcome back to another theory video. Now, this theory video is going to be talking about the tiers that we've seen in Tears of the Kingdom and how those abilities and how the abilities of those tiers work and what they could be possibly made out of. So from what we've seen so far, we've kind of seen, I would say, two abilities or two of the tiers being used, that being Zelda's one and that being Ganondorf's one. Because if you look in the last trailer that we saw a while back, when Zelda's falling down the pit, you can see the sort of like glow around her, and then with Ganondorf you can kind of see the stone, all the tear on his forehead glow, and I think there's malice around him as well. So I think that's Ganondorf's tear activating as well, and to me, they the tears kind of look like, when you look at Zelda's one specifically, it kind of looks like some similar material to the ones that the time shift stones from Skyward Sword look like, because if you look at if you compare the two, if you look at Zelda's tear that she has and the time shift stones, they kind of look like the same thing, or made of similar ore or something like that. And I like to think that that when Zelda's falling down, because when Zelda is falling down and you see that glow, I like to think that that's her tear being activated for the first time, similar to how the time shift stone you first see in Skyward Sword activates. Is kind of similar to that. But you could think that with a time shift stone in Skyward Sword, when you first hit it, it could just be there for spectacle, because it's from a non-story, sort of gameplay sort of aspect. The time shift stone, when you first hit it, is just a way of showing you how it does its ability, so that you can see into the past. But I would feel like that because you hit it for the first time, it's a way of reactivating itself, or it's a way of reactivating itself, because I feel like that the people or whoever have found the time shift stones were the Zonai, because in the latest trailer we see that there's a possible hand that possibly belongs to a Zonai in the latest trailer, who puts his hand on Zelda's shoulder, and it kind of looks like Link's hand from all the trailers that we've seen so far for Breath of the Wild, for Tears of the Kingdom. So that could be the Zonai, and I would like to think that the Zonai are the ones that found the tears and found the time shift stones, and because of that they created the robots, the Lineru mining robots that we see throughout part of the game, whether that's in the Lineru desert or with with one of the Skyloft shop owners, when you give him a ancient flower to help rebuild his robots, or whether it's with the Thunder Dragon in Lineru Gorge, or because you mainly see them in Lineru. So and because Lineru has several time shift stones, that must be also the place where the Zonai thought, okay, let's try and find these stones, and they might want to try and use the stones for their own powers, or try and find out how they can stop or use their ability to their own advantage against their enemies and stuff like that. So when we're first introduced into the Nehru mining robots. It's we first introduced them to when we first appear, or when we first see a time shift stone, and you can see that they are mainly doing their work. Some of them are mining and stuff like that, and I would say that back when they were first made, they would go searching out for not only the time shift stones, which can be seen scattered throughout the Lanayru area, but also maybe some other kinds of ore or something like that, something that was made by the time shift, or there's something that's similar to the time shift stones. So with the time shift stones, its ability is that we can see a glimpse of the past whenever when things were working and stuff, and every time we hit a time shift stone, it depending on where you are, the previous one will deactivate, or if you hit the main one, everything will go back into the what is it currently. So maybe the Zonai, when they were trying to find all the different types of ores to use, they not only found time shift stones, but also maybe some of the other ores and stuff that makes up the tiers in Tears of the Kingdom. So when the Zonai made the Lanayru mining robots, one of the first stones that they might have found was the time shift stones, or the ore to create them. And then when they found out that the ability that the time shift stones has the ability to look into the past or see events that happened in the past, but not too similar to things like the Gate of Time that we see in Skyward Sword, or travel to or through in other games like A Link, or Call of Seasons, or Ages, or Ocarina of Time. I would think that the Zonai, knowing this and knowing that the robots won't be able to work forever, they will be able to harness those stones and then use their ability to look into the past so that the robots could continue looking for the different ores to create the different tiers that we have seen throughout the trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. And in terms of their abilities, I would feel like, because out of the tiers that we've seen so far, we've seen one with Zelda, one with Ganondorf, I think one with a Zonai member, maybe, again, with a hand that's on Zelda's shoulder, and one with Sidon, I believe, as well, and I think I say Ganondorf as well, but we've seen one with Ganondorf as well, and I like to think that the abilities are all based on things that each person is kind of, in terms of their abilities that we've seen so far, or something similar that's related to their families. So for Zelda, the one that she has, because it has the ability recall, or the name of recall, on the tier that Zelda has, which is the same one as one of Link's hand abilities, it could be just an advanced version of that, where we see Zelda going back in time. With Sidon's one, it could be something like, it could be similar to a similar ability to Mipha's Grace that we get in Breath of the Wild, where it could be a healing property, maybe, or something more. It could be a more advanced version of Mipha's Grace, something like that, or maybe something related to Sidon himself. And with Ganondorf, I would like to think that his tier that we see is the one that helped generate the Blood Moon, and maybe as well Calamity Ganon, the big fog malice cloud thing that we see around Hyrule Castle, because with the one that Ganondorf has is this sort of red colour to it, and I feel like because Ganondorf is known for having power and wanting it, and he is known for being the holder of the Triforce of Power, it gave them more power, and it gave them the ability to not only take on a huge monstrous pig form, probably the hugest one that we've seen of Ganon ever. Like, if you look at all the other Ganons that we've seen, the Calamity Ganon that we see in Breath of the Wild is probably the largest one, and as well as not only that, also having Ganondorf being able to resurrect his minions via the Blood Moon. And yes, the Blood Moon is only in there so enemies can respawn and not crash the game or whatever. That's what I've heard. But in terms of a narrative sense, and maybe from Ganondorf's perspective, that's how Ganondorf was able to get more power and maybe was able to collect more power and maybe something like that. So yeah, and maybe the Zonai are trying to find as many tears as they need to try and stop Gandalf, maybe, or maybe when they first found the tears or the ore to create them, they were able to only find or create a majority of them, or a good handful of them, before the rest of them fell into the hands of whoever. Maybe it was like some of the demons that was in the introduction for Skyward Sword. Maybe fell into the hand of some of the tribes that we've seen in Skyward Sword that evolved over time, maybe, or something like that. Or maybe they could be lost on some of the Sky Islands. I think it really depends on how the game presents these tears and how they will be used in the game, maybe narratively, maybe from a story perspective. Maybe I'm not 100% sure, but I would love to see something be done with these tears, because it looks genuinely cool to see how and interesting of how these tears could be used within the game. So yeah, that's been my theory video for the tears and how they could be used in the game and what they're made from. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.